When Prime Hydration launched in January 2022, it wasn't just another sports drink entering the crowded beverage market, it was a cultural event. Backed by two of the internet's biggest personalities, Logan Paul and KSI, the drink hit shelves with explosive energy. These weren't just influencers, they were global figures with millions of fans, and their collaboration alone created shockwaves. The idea was simple but bold. Take on Gatorade, Powerade, and Body Armor with a better-for-you hydration option, lower in sugar, higher in electrolytes, and wrapped in the power of modern celebrity marketing. The initial rollout was nothing short of electric. Fans lined up outside stores, Prime bottles sold out within minutes, and resale prices soared online. Social media flooded with posts of fans showing off their latest Prime purchase, sometimes treating it more like a collectible than a beverage. At one point, Prime was so popular in the UK that supermarkets had to enforce purchase limits to prevent hoarding. The hype was unlike anything the hydration space had ever seen. Logan Paul and KSI, the driving force. Logan Paul and KSI weren't just co-owners, they were the marketing machine. Both had reinvented themselves after years of controversy, and Prime became the centerpiece of their new identities. For Logan, Prime wasn't just a product, it was his ticket to billionaire status. He admitted openly in interviews that he saw Prime as the fastest way to achieve generational wealth. For KSI, the project was equally personal. Having built a career through music, YouTube, and boxing, Prime represented his ability to thrive in business as much as entertainment. Together, their combined reach was astronomical. Every podcast appearance, boxing press conference, or social media post included Prime placement. Logan carried bottles to WWE matches. KSI shouted it out during concerts. They weren't just endorsing the product, they were living it, treating Prime like an extension of themselves. For a while, it worked brilliantly. Prime became a household name, seemingly overnight. The billion-dollar vision. The ultimate goal wasn't to run Prime forever. Both Logan and KSI envisioned building it up until it became attractive enough for a giant like Coca-Cola or Pepsi to buy out. This wasn't far-fetched. Coca-Cola had acquired Body Armor in 2021 for $5.6 billion after years of steady growth. If Prime could follow a similar path, the two influencers stood to walk away with hundreds of millions each. For Logan, who reportedly owned around 20% of Prime, the math was simple. A $5 billion acquisition would make him one of the youngest billionaires in entertainment. The vision was grand, and at first the numbers seemed to support it. Sales skyrocketed, and Prime positioned itself as a legitimate challenger to legacy brands. The first cracks appear. But hype is fragile. What starts as a rocket launch can quickly lose altitude if it isn't backed by sustainable growth. By mid-2023, troubling signs began to emerge. Complaints circulated about shortages, inconsistent product quality, and even concerns about ingredients. While some of these controversies were overblown by critics, they chipped away at the carefully constructed image of Prime as the next big thing. The more troubling issue, however, was financial. In the United States, sales were down by more than 50% in the first half of 2024. Across the Atlantic, things were even worse. In the UK, Prime's revenue dropped by 70% in a single year, falling from £112.2 million in 2023 to just £32.8 million in 2024. That kind of decline was almost unheard of in the beverage industry, especially for a product that had only been around for 2 years. Lawsuits and legal struggles behind the scenes, Prime was also facing lawsuits that further complicated its future. One of the most notable was a $67 million claim from Refresco, a bottling company that alleged Prime backed out of a manufacturing deal. According to reports, Prime feared it wouldn't be able to sell enough product to justify the quotas, leaving them vulnerable to huge financial penalties. This lawsuit highlighted a deeper problem. Prime's business model relied heavily on the assumption that hype would sustain itself. But when that hype faded, the company struggled to keep up with the ambitious manufacturing contracts it had signed. Unlike body armor, which had grown steadily year after year, Prime was built on explosive momentum. Once that momentum stalled, cracks quickly turned into chasms. The UK collapse nowhere was Prime's downfall more evident than in the UK. After dominating headlines in its first year, sales plummeted by 90% year over year, shrinking from £3 million in profit to just £300,000. Fans who once camped outside stores for a single bottle now walked past fully stocked shelves without a second glance. What was once a cultural sensation became a clearance item at discount retailers. This decline wasn't just about fading hype, it reflected a deeper shift in perception. For many fans, Prime had gone from a must-have product to an over-marketed brand weighed down by lawsuits, controversies, and declining trust. Why Prime failed where others succeeded? To understand Prime's downfall, it helps to compare it to body armor, which successfully sold to Coca-Cola. Body armor spent nearly a decade building its brand, growing steadily and consistently before being acquired. By the time Coca-Cola came knocking, body armor wasn't just hype. It was a proven, profitable business with long-term stability. Prime, on the other hand, tried to achieve in 2 years what body armor had done in 10. Instead of steady growth, Prime relied on explosive marketing campaigns and celebrity hype. That strategy worked initially, but it wasn't sustainable. The steep sales declines proved that once the novelty wore off, the brand lacked staying power in a competitive market. The power and risk of celebrity branding celebrity-backed products have always been a double-edged sword. The endorsement can catapult a brand into the spotlight, but it also ties the brand's fate to the celebrity's reputation. With Prime, Logan Paul and KSI's personalities were both the greatest asset and the biggest liability. When fans were excited about their boxing matches, YouTube projects, or business ventures, Prime benefited. But when controversies emerged, whether about Logan's public behaviour, lawsuits, or even disagreements between the two founders, Prime suffered. Unlike Coca-Cola or Gatorade, Prime wasn't seen as a brand on its own. It was always Logan and KSI's drink, and when the shine wore off them, it wore off the product too. The oversaturation problem. From the very beginning, Prime was marketed as an exclusive, must-have product. Logan Paul and KSI fueled the hype by positioning it as a limited supply, high-demand beverage. It created a sense of urgency that drove consumers to rush out and buy it immediately. In the UK, this marketing strategy inadvertently led to the emergence of a black market, where young people resold bottles of Prime at a significant markup. Local families reported seeing Prime exchanged in schoolyards like a rare commodity. For a moment, it seemed like Prime had captured lightning in a bottle, riding a wave of influencer-fueled success. However, this approach backfired. Instead of fostering long-term brand loyalty, it gave Prime the image of a fad. Over time, the market became oversaturated. Countless new flavours and variations flooded store shelves, diminishing the drink's original appeal. The limited supply aura faded into nothingness, and instead of being a coveted product, Prime became an ordinary item. The oversaturation made consumers feel like they had already tried every flavour. Those who purchased it regularly began buying less, signalling product fatigue rather than sustained enthusiasm. The target audience confusion. One of Prime's biggest mistakes was its unclear target demographic. Was it for athletes seeking proper hydration during intense workouts? Or was it a trendy drink for school children looking for something colourful and appealing during lunchtime? This lack of clarity hurt the brand's identity. Unlike Gatorade, which has long been associated with athletic performance, or body armour, which positions itself as a healthier alternative, Prime lacked a defined purpose. Its formula was essentially a potassium drink with added sugars and flavouring, not a true performance-enhancing electrolyte blend. The company marketed it as an everyday enjoyable beverage, suitable for casual sipping, but failed to communicate any real health or athletic benefit convincingly. This ambiguity in messaging left consumers confused. The drink's bright packaging and flashy endorsements made it seem fun and trendy, but it didn't offer any solid reason for repeat purchases. Adults rarely drank it. Most sightings of Prime were at clearance sections in grocery stores, a telltale sign that the brand's consumer perception had plummeted. Once a product becomes associated with discount bins, the public begins to see it as undesirable. The formula reality. At its core, Prime isn't an advanced hydration formula. Its ingredients don't make it stand out in a competitive market where science-backed, athlete-targeted beverages dominate. The potassium-based formula offers a low-calorie alternative, but doesn't claim to optimize performance. The company pitched it as an everyday drink you could sip on while walking around, going to school, or hanging out with friends. But this positioning was both its strength and its weakness. If the goal was to be a mainstream enjoyable drink, why lean so heavily into celebrity endorsements that skewed its image toward the extreme? Why not invest in a clean branding strategy that emphasized the product's real strengths? Low calories, appealing taste, and convenience. Instead, Prime seemed more focused on outperforming competitors by tearing them down in marketing campaigns, a tactic that rarely builds a lasting brand. The marketing misstep. It's telling that Prime never tried to build a solid standalone identity. From the beginning, the brand was intrinsically linked to Logan Paul and KSI. The marketing heavily revolved around these two personalities, without enough effort to present Prime as a legitimate hydration option. Instead, the strategy often came across as gimmicky, relying on shock value and over-the-top promotions. For instance, MrBeast's involvement in similar food and beverage projects didn't exactly improve Prime's credibility. Instead of showcasing the product's merits, these promotional moves seemed more like stunts designed to garner views. Logan Paul, known for his outspoken and controversial style, pushed Prime with the same over-the-top energy that made him famous. He promoted it during life events, including his wife's pregnancy announcement, which blurred personal and commercial boundaries. This approach backfired, as it appeared exploitative rather than genuine. Prime's marketing strategy failed to focus on what really mattered: product quality and consumer trust. A good brand doesn't need to denounce competitors to succeed. Instead, it needs to showcase its strengths. Prime's approach, by contrast, was about loud promotions and celebrity hype, which are unsustainable without solid product fundamentals. The business model flaws. Prime's ambitions were high, too high perhaps. The brand aimed to challenge industry giants like Gatorade and Powerade, expecting to be acquired by Coca-Cola or Pepsi in the near future. For Logan Paul, whose stated goal was to become a billionaire, Prime seemed like the fastest route to success. Early on, the sales figures looked promising, but as time passed, cracks began to show. In the UK alone, Prime's profit plummeted by 90%, from £3 million to just £300,000. In the US, sales dropped by more than 50% during the first half of 2024. These numbers were staggering. Prime quickly became one of the fastest-falling consumer goods in the food and beverage industry. Despite attempts to frame this as a natural decline following the initial hype, ongoing lawsuits and manufacturing disputes painted a far grimmer picture. Prime's $67 million lawsuit with Refresco Bottling Company exposed yet another problem. The brand had committed to manufacturing quotas it couldn't meet due to overestimated demand forecasts. Instead of adjusting their strategy early on, Prime pushed forward with the expectation that hype alone would carry them. This created a financial nightmare, leaving them liable for unfulfilled contracts while dealing with plummeting sales. Comparing Prime to Body Armor. A useful comparison lies in Body Armor's success story. Coca-Cola purchased a minority stake in Body Armor in 2018, and it quickly turned into a booming success. With Coca-Cola's industry expertise and bottling resources, Body Armor's sales skyrocketed, growing by over 50 to 150% each year until Coca-Cola fully acquired it. This strategic growth, gradual, consistent, and backed by a clear brand purpose, contrasts sharply with Prime's reckless, hype-driven model. Body Armor focused on performance-driven marketing and backed it up with legitimate product claims. The Coca-Cola partnership provided manufacturing scale and industry insights, reducing cost per unit and ensuring distribution efficiency. Prime, on the other hand, lacked these fundamentals. Instead of slow, organic growth, they chased fast expansion without establishing product reliability or customer trust. The result was a steep decline, as their strategy proved unsustainable. The clear lesson. Ultimately, the Prime saga is a cautionary tale about the perils of hype without substance. Their downfall wasn't just about poor business decisions, it was about failing to build a coherent brand. A beverage that was hyped as revolutionary turned out to be a colourfully packaged potassium drink with flashy celebrity endorsements. Prime made the critical error of confusing visibility with viability. Celebrity-driven marketing can provide short-term spikes in sales, but long-term success depends on clear product purpose, consistent quality, and genuine consumer trust. The oversaturated market, confused audience targeting, and unsustainable hype ultimately buried Prime under a mountain of bad decisions. As it stands, the future of Prime looks bleak. With no clear strategy for reclaiming its reputation, the brand faces an uphill battle against consumer skepticism and industry giants. Transparency, clear communication, and a well-defined product identity could have made all the difference. In the end, the Prime story isn't just about a failing energy drink. It's about the gap between image and reality. For aspiring entrepreneurs and consumers alike, it serves as a reminder that substance always outlasts hype. Prime's unconventional marketing tactics. When Prime first burst onto the scene, it did so with energy, colour, and chaos. Logan Paul and KSI leaned heavily into wild stunts to grab attention, from donning mascot costumes to shadow boxing in public. The idea was to make Prime seem like more than just a drink. It was meant to feel like a cultural moment. Compared to their competitors like Gatorade or Powerade, who rely on professional athletes and performance-driven campaigns, Prime's strategy was intentionally loud and unorthodox. But as time passed, what once looked exciting started to appear gimmicky and even tacky. Instead of showing credibility, Prime often came across as a product trying too hard to stand out. Questionable health claims. Prime's marketing consistently positioned the drink as a superior, healthier alternative to traditional sports beverages. However, nutritionists and health experts weren't convinced. Many pointed out that the formula didn't quite live up to its claims of being an optimal hydration solution. For example, when compared to products like Liquid IV, the difference in electrolytes was negligible, and the composition of nutrients didn't match what the human body actually loses during exercise. Critics argued that lumping all electrolytes together without considering balance, such as sodium, which plays a vital role in hydration, was misleading. For parents, this raised concerns about whether Prime was appropriate for children, and for athletes, it made the drink appear less credible. The consumer backlash consumers eventually caught on to the pattern. Prime leaned heavily on celebrity power rather than building trust in the product itself. While that worked in the short term, long-term success requires more than flashy endorsements. The loud comparisons to competitors, attempts to dismiss established brands as outdated, and reliance on influencer promotion created skepticism. Parents grew wary of buying it for their kids. Athletes didn't view it as performance grade, and adults generally didn't see themselves reflected in the marketing. The result was a narrowing consumer base that couldn't sustain growth. Health perception matters. In the sports and hydration category, health perception is everything. Gatorade and Powerade may be criticised for sugar content, but they've stood the test of time because consumers trust them for performance. Body Armour succeeded because it married better-for-you branding with genuine hydration benefits. Prime's formula, however, wasn't backed by strong science, and its flashy packaging often made it look more like a novelty drink than a serious hydration option. For a product entering a competitive, health-focused category, this was a fatal misstep. Overshadowed by its founders. Perhaps Prime's biggest challenge is that it never separated itself from Logan Paul and KSI. Their massive influence created the initial buzz, but it also tied the brand's identity too closely to their reputations. Any controversy surrounding the pair reflected directly onto Prime. Instead of becoming a standalone product, Prime remained seen as Logan and KSI's drink. This dependency limited its credibility in professional circles and kept it tethered to the volatile world of influencer drama, which is rarely a stable foundation for a billion-dollar brand. The future of Prime. As it stands, Prime faces an uncertain future. Sales have dropped dramatically in both the US and UK. Lawsuits hang over the company, and investor interest seems minimal. While the brand still enjoys name recognition, it has become more of a cautionary tale than a success story. To survive, Prime would need a complete rebrand, shifting focus from hype-driven influencer marketing to establishing itself as a legitimate product with clear benefits. This would mean clearer messaging, healthier formulations, and professional partnerships beyond the world of YouTube and social media. Final thoughts. Prime's rise and fall illustrate the dangers of confusing hype with long-term viability. A flashy launch and celebrity endorsement can ignite initial interest, but without product strength, brand clarity, and consistent value, that spark fades quickly. The company overexpanded, leaned too hard on personalities, and struggled to prove its health claims. In the end, Prime bit off more than it could chew. The lesson here is simple. Building a lasting brand requires patience, authenticity, and focus. Hype can open the door, but only quality and trust can keep it open. Prime's story is a reminder to entrepreneurs and consumers alike that in the crowded world of consumer goods, substance always outshines spectacle.